Howdy, my name is Nonat, and in case you're unaware, a month ago at Gen Con 2023, Paizo made a couple of huge announcements, one of the biggest ones being the long-awaited STARFINDER 2E. I don't know if that's the title they're going to be going with officially, but they have given us the STARFINDER Field playtest back in Gen Con, where we got a few of the new updated rules, confirmation that it will be using Pathfinder 2E's 3 action economy, and even more than that, the biggest part of the announcement is that everything in the new STARFINDER will be completely backwards compatible with Pathfinder 2E, meaning you can play your Dragon Instinct Barbarian in a Starfinder game, and you can play your Starfinder Super Soldier in a Pathfinder campaign. Character creation is the same, feat selection is the same, spell casting is the same, everything is the same between the two systems. The only big difference is the flavor and the universe and time period they take place in, of course allowing for totally different character options. So today we're going to take a look at one of those character options which they have shown off to us in the playtest, the Soldier. If you're unaware, this is sort of like the fighter of Starfinder, but remember, they use super heavy machinery weapons, so they're going to be quite different from our critical hit king of Pathfinder 2E. Now, before we get into that, you might be wondering, why did I wait a full month to talk about this when I could have covered this, 3 weeks ago, even 4 weeks ago? Well, that's because a friend of the channel, Eldritch Osiris Games, has released their Kickstarter today, and the theme of that Kickstarter perfectly coincides with Starfinder. I would like to take a minute to talk about Mech Finder, as they have sponsored today's video. Mech Finder takes Pathfinder and Starfinder to the next level, taking you away from the small single person you're playing as and putting them inside massive mechanical suits. And when I say massive, I mean it. A medium-sized mech is 50 feet by 50 foot square. Basically, everything in Mech Finder is about 10 times bigger than your standard Pathfinder battle map. And in Mech Finder, you still make your character the same way, your ancestry, your background, but class works a lot differently, namely because typically everybody is going to be playing as the pilot class. The pilot class varies in a lot of different things like hit points and key ability scores and all of that, because it's going to be very dependent A, on your pilot subclass, and B, what type of mech you're using, because in Mech Finder, every single mech has a frame, and those frames are going to sound pretty familiar. Things like Bard and Psychic and Barbarian. All of the classes that you know from Pathfinder have been converted into mech frames, which will have their own abilities, their own statistics, their own features that you can use and implement into a new mechanical form. For example, a Dragon Instinct Barbarian mech might use some kind of chemicals and reactions to imitate the type of dragon effects that a normal barbarian would be using on their rage attacks. Rather than going into a mental rage, your mech will overclock itself to gain the same benefits as a raging barbarian. And you do get to build your mech from the ground up using their mech point system. Starting at level 1, you get 14 mech points, which you can use to buy one item from each of the categories of your size, mobility, limbs, hull, processor, and systems. There's a lot to look at here. All of the different class frames are going to have access to feats and features to make them feel totally unique. The artwork is really colorful and full of life, and I'm really excited to see what Mech Finder can bring to the table once it is fully funded and published. So if you want to help bring Mech Finder to life, there is a link in the description you can follow to their Kickstarter, which just started today. Definitely work with them. EOG has been putting in the work for years in the Pathfinder universe. Honestly, if you're part of the community, you've almost definitely heard of them. So thank you, Eldritch Osiris Games, for sponsoring today's video. Let's go talk about Starfinder. So, if you are looking at the page next to me, it probably looks pretty familiar if you've ever made a Pathfinder 2E character before. You've got the name and the flavor text, you've got the key attribute, the hit points, all the proficiencies on the right-hand sidebar. It's the exact same, and I think this is a brilliant move by Paizo, meaning if you've ever played PF2, you can play Starfinder. There is no barrier to entry. You learn one system, you already know the other. That's fantastic. So the soldier is already standing out compared to the fighter of Pathfinder because their key ability score is Constitution. What? They get 10 plus their Constitution modifier in hit points. That is already so off guard, and I'm really interested to see where this goes. Because like most of my deep dives, I guess this is more of a shallow dive, I didn't pre-read this. It's been a month. I have not really read this, so I'm excited to go into it with you. Their starting proficiencies are only trained in perception, trained in reflex saves, trained in will saves, and expert in fortitude saves. This is already interesting that they're only getting one saving throw expert. They get intimidation +3 and their intelligence modifier in extra skill proficiencies, trained in simple and martial weapons as well as unarmed strikes, and trained in all armor. We can already see that the soldier is definitely shaping up to be a tank rather than a damage dealer. Unlike our Pathfinder fighter, sorry if I keep making that comparison, it's just the most direct thing. They're not expert in weaponry, but they are trained in heavy armor right from level 1. Wait, hold on, I'm being attacked by Paizo. Hold on, Paizo, stop watching this video because you've already called me out. I would like to look at the designing the soldier thing in the corner here. The soldier is a class that the Starfinder team wanted to make sure wasn't just the fighter in space. I'm so sorry. Their approach so far has been to design the soldier as a class that can absorb more damage than a fighter, with similar scaling to the champion class. Oh my god, alright, I'm into it, let's go. Ancestry and background, initial proficiencies, ability boosts, all of this the exact same as PF2, which is so nice. Right at level 1, the soldier has a completely unique ability, suppressing fire. There's a totally new condition you can inflict in this game now, suppressed, and they can inflict this by attacking someone with an area weapon. An area weapon has either the area trait or the automatic trait, and I already love what they're doing with this. If an area weapon has a range, you have to spend 2 actions to attack with it, but you attack every single creature in a line or cone equal to the weapon's range increment, or if it's an explosive, a targeted burst. And instead of using an attack roll, this is a basic reflex save against your class DC. Automatic fire is very similar, but it's always going to be a cone equal to your range increment. If a soldier uses one of these abilities and an enemy fails their saving throw, they become suppressed. This is not only a 5-foot status penalty to their movement speed, but a -1 circumstance penalty to their attack rolls. They're already making a class that stands out compared to anything that's already in Pathfinder 2e. A circumstance penalty to attack rolls is so rare, and for that to be one of the soldier's main gimmicks is amazing. They can also choose to use primary target, which takes an area weapon and limits it to only attacking a single closest target. It uses an attack roll instead of a saving throw, meaning the soldier can now pick between whether armor class or reflex save is the better option when attacking a target, and even if they use the primary target attack roll instead of the saving throw, they still become suppressed if they land the hit. Soldiers also get the choice of a fighting style, which means they get basically a subclass. Armor Storm is already so freaking cool. First off, you never count as being in the area of a ranged weapon you've attacked with. If I'm understanding this correctly, this means you can take a grenade launcher, shoot the ground at your feet, and you don't take damage, but everyone else in the area does. Additionally, you get an inherent half your level's resistance against suppressed targets, so as long as you hit the boss every single turn, they're just dealing reduced damage to you forever. That's amazing! The Bombard makes your area attacks easier for your allies to resist and makes it so even on a successful saving throw, enemies are still suppressed. This lets you make basically a support soldier, which is just so cool. Even if that boss is constantly making their saving throws, they're still taking a permanent -1 to all attack rolls. Yeah, so like the DC is 2 less for your allies to save against, which is fine, but I've honestly found that effects like that don't do great. I find that it's usually pretty easy to, it feels like a little bit of meta scumming, but, just move your AoE so that the end of it is right in front of your ally, but it still hits the enemy. We've all done it, it's just the best way to play the game, because no one likes to be hurting their allies. Unless you're my Earth kineticist dropping rocks on an entire party, including himself. Hi, Andrew. Hi, Deshale. Hi, Josh. Hi, Andrea. Sorry for almost killing you. Close quarters is exactly what it sounds like. Rather than using area weapons, you're using two-handed weapons to inflict the suppressed condition. You're hitting enemies so hard with great weapons, they become suppressed. How does it try to explain that? It doesn't really. I just think it's hilarious. I love that. They also get a unique reaction. Punitive Strike is just the same as Reactive Strike, except it also triggers on Manipulate actions, however it only triggers on currently suppressed targets. I am loving the entirety of this class being based around suppression. I think that's a super cool gimmick, and it plays into the tactical strategic soldier aspect that, like they said, differentiates it from the Unga Boonga critical hit fighter perfectly. Walking Armory is also just a really nice quality of life thing for the soldier. When trying to deduce if you meet the strength requirement for heavy armor, you can use Constitution instead. You're just so bulky and hardy that armor can just rest on you. You might not be strong, but you're wide. You're thick boy. Also, your bulk limit is increased by your Constitution modifier. I'm pretty sure that's the same thing that Strength does to your encumbrance, so they're just letting you use Constitution for certain strength-related things, and I think that's fantastic. They get Soldier feats, they get Skill feats at 3rd level, they can use Con instead of Charisma on Intimidation. You just walk up so wide that people get scared and pee their pants. I love this. This class is amazing. Skill increases, general feats, ancestry feats, and I'm guessing something that should say soldier weapon expertise because it gives you expert proficiency, even though it says mastery. We got a few cool feats to cover here. This does only go to level 5 in the playtest, but obviously the class will go to 20 in the full release, but let's see what kind of feat options the soldier can pick from. Pin Down is a nice little backup plan in case something does make its saving throw. For one action, if your last attack was with an area weapon, you can choose one creature that was affected by it, and they have to make their saving throw again. Now, if they fail, it doesn't do any damage, but it does still suppress them. This is really good against bosses. You know, if the boss is going to make their saving throw quite often, you can have Pin Down as an extra backup plan to make them roll their save basically twice per turn to keep that -1 circumstance penalty to their attack rolls. I can't tell if this is really good on the Bombard or if the Bombard doesn't typically need it. Because remember, the Bombard inflicts suppressed even on a normal save, but a boss does have a pretty good chance of critically saving. I'd wager most bosses can critically save against a class DC on a 16 or higher, so having Pin Down might be good on a Bombard. Quick Swap is clearly for the close quarters soldier. As a reaction, if a creature enters melee range with you, you can just swap to a different two-handed weapon. What's amazing is it's not even drop and swap, it's put your current weapon away and pull your new weapon out, all for a reaction. That is 2 actions for 1 reaction, and that should not be understated how amazing that economy is. So Ready Reload, unfortunately, really sounds like the best feat here already. It unfortunately feels like best in slot for everyone but the close quarters. For 1 action, if you just fired using a 2-reload two-handed weapon, you can reload it for 1 action. This means that if you've got a massive and maybe not all area weapons are gonna be reload 2, so maybe if you're not using those huge 2-reload weapons, you can get away with this, but I feel like most of them are gonna be multi-action reload, in which case Ready Reload is just the best, so you can go kaboom, 1-action double reload every single turn. Because remember, it's 2 actions to fire an area weapon. So it's 2-action fire, 1-action double reload. 2-action fire, 1-action double reload, rinse and repeat. No, okay. Alright, this actually does compete with Ready Reload. I was wrong, because this is amazing! As a free action, when you roll initiative, as long as you've got an area weapon out, you can make an area or automatic fire attack. Not on your turn, not as a reaction, just free action, on initiative, you get to attack for free. And this is an area attack. If the enemies are clumped together for some reason, and you can just get like 5 of them, you can hit 5 enemies as a free action on initiative. Sure, you might not be able to reload as fast as Ready Reload, but damn, that's an advantage. Second level, we have Menacing Laughter. For one action, you can demoralize all enemies within 30 feet that you suppressed this turn. This is a very specific feat with a very powerful effect. You know, a 30-foot emanation frightened 1 on failure, that's insane. Because that's a status penalty, not a circumstance penalty. So if you can suppress and frighten, that combines to a total of -2 to attack rolls. Now, it is only on those you suppressed, so if you only hit 2 targets with your area fire, you're only demoralizing those 2 targets. But if you demoralized 5 targets, then you get to demoralize, or if you bursted, it's really good. Relentless Endurance is awesome. Once per hour when you take damage, you can spend your reaction to gain 1d8 plus 4 temporary hit points. And these last for 10 minutes.
Damn!
It scales pretty well, honestly. It only scales every 4 levels, so it's going to scale at 6, 10, 14, and 18, but every time it does, it goes up by 1d8 plus 4. Meaning at character level 6, 2d8 plus 8 temporary hit points, that's a full hit against you, you know? Couple that with some of your maybe damage resistance if you are an Armor Storm soldier against the boss, that's amazing. Steady Up is kind of cool. If you've got one awkward action left at the end of your turn and maybe you don't need to reload, Steady Up lets you use one action to make your next area fire or automatic fire one action instead of 2. This sort of just lets you break up the actions to use one at the end of this turn and then one at the start of next turn to use your automatic fire. It even comes with one benefit and one penalty. The penalty is just if you move at all before using the benefit of Steady Up, you lose it. You know, you can't Steady Up, then move, then do the one action fire. But also, you can't be forced to move either, as long as it's 10 feet or less. And I'll be honest, most forced movement in this game is a maximum of 10 feet. I think even a critically failed shove saving throw, or a critically succeeded shove check, is going to be 10 feet of movement, meaning nothing happens. This is really good. It's a really good action economy. I'm sure there's going to be area weapons that don't need to be reloaded every single turn. Maybe they have a magazine, so that would let you get basically 2 off, 3 off per round. Wow, I didn't even think about that. Remember, these are saving throws, not attack rolls. They don't suffer from multiple attack penalty. So with Steady Up, you could get 3 area effects off in 2 turns, as long as there's a magazine. That's nuts. I love that. Overwhelming Assault reduces multiple attack penalty. This makes you a little bit better as a boss killer, because remember, you might want to use your attack rolls instead of saving throws against a single target. It makes you have a -4 multiple attack penalty instead of -5, and a -3 if you're using an agile weapon, which I can't imagine there's going to be many, if any, agile, area, or automatic fire weapons, but I've been wrong before. Keep in mind, though, this does only work against suppressed targets. Interesting. I can't tell if this is a typo or not, but your third attack is at -9, not -8. This only gives you an advantage on your second attack. Your third attack is at -5. You can see that, yeah, your first attack full bonus, second attack -4, third attack -9. Weird. I don't really know why they would do that, but I think you're most likely not going to be using third attacks because all of your attacks take 2 actions anyway. I'm not mad at this, it just seems weird. Punishing Salvo is used to combine with very specific weapons with the Unwieldy trait. Unwieldy means you can only make 1 attack with that weapon per round, but for 1 action with Punishing Salvo, you can ignore that trait and make a normal primary target strike, all for 1 action, meaning for 3 actions, you can use an area attack, or even better, an area reflex save, and then Punishing Salvo to make a single target strike with that same weapon. And Widen Area is literally meta magic for your weapon. For 1 action, if your next action is to use an area attack, you can increase a 10-foot or larger burst by 5 feet, which that's insane. Every 5 feet you add to a burst makes it monumentally bigger. And if your line or cone is 15 feet or less, you add 5 feet to it, and if it's longer than 15 feet, you add 10 feet to the range. This is making all of these area effects so much bigger. But keep in mind, Widen Area does have the Manipulate trait, which can trigger attacks of opportunity or reactive strikes, as well as other things. So keep that in mind. You can't do that while restrained, for example. And there we have it. Levels 1 through 5 of the Soldier. I have never been more hyped. I really hate saying it. I'm more hyped for the Soldier than I am for the Animist or the Exemplar. I'm sorry, Paizo. Don't at me, don't fire me. Please keep sending me free stuff. I love it.